In the last video, I showed you how to create a simple macro. Now we're going to do, macros in and of themselves, they're very simple. It's basically what you just saw in the last video. You record what you want it to do, and it does it, okay? It's as simple as that. Manipulating and changing macros after the fact, that gets a little bit more complex. But I'm going to show you a real-world implementation of this very thing. And let's analyze what we're about to do here, because proper preparation before you record a macro, that is one of the critical factors here that will save you a lot of time in the recording process. Because again, a missed step, that means basically you got to re-record the macro, or you have to get down to the low-level programming and get into the code and fix whatever, if you want to try to add stuff in that way or remove it or whatever. So what we're trying to do with this is, you might remember from before, I went to PayPal in my internet browser. I just grabbed a page of a report that showed incoming payments that I received, and I did a copy and I pasted it into Excel. The thing with that is I may or may not paste it into the exact same cell every time. And I also might forget to have things in the same position. So what that means is I should probably use relative referencing. So I'm going to double check that that is turned on, and it is. That way, as long as the cells are laid out exactly the same way as far as the columns here, I'm going to get, it's going to perform the task that I need it to perform, and it's going to grab the right data. But the correct procedure to follow here is to, number one, figure out what it is exactly that you need to do. And then number two, write down, a good idea is to write down the steps on a piece of paper, go through and do it manually one time so that you know that it's actually working, and then go ahead and record the macro. So considering I'm going to assume that that's already been done, and I've already got a list of all my steps that I'm going to perform, and I'm going to go ahead and record the macro. First thing that we need to do is click in the cell L3, because I want to be just a couple of cells away from the last value here. And that's where I'm always going to start, okay? That's one thing to consider. Before I've even recorded the macro, I need to make sure that I put my cell in, that I select this as the active cell. Now, since we're recording with relative references, that's not actually going to be taken into account because I've just clicked in a cell. Okay, so I could click in any cell. That doesn't matter. I need to make sure, in other words, when I run this macro, I need to make sure that I always start it in the cell that is directly 2 cells to the right of the first value. That's just something I've got to remember to do. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So I'll go ahead and click Record Macro. We're going to call this Fix PayPal. And I'm not going to do a shortcut. I would like this. We'll just go ahead and save this in this workbook. But I might want to, I'll go ahead and put it in my personal macro workbook because I want to be able to use this all the time. And we'll just put a description. Fixes the PayPal formatting issues. And we'll click OK. Again, some of the information here I have changed to protect the innocent and taken away their actual names and email addresses and everything. But what is the very first thing we've got to do in this situation? It is get rid of that USD that's at the end. So considering where I have selected here, I'm going to now click 2 cells to the left and click and drag and highlight that data right there. Okay, then I'm going to go to Home. I'm going to go to Find and Select and go to Replace. And I'm going to find USD and replace it with nothing and click Replace All. Boom, it's done. Click OK and close that. Okay, that's great. Now, it's still not a number though. It's still considered text. So I'm going to click in this cell. Again, back in that same one that is 2 cells over, on the same line, on the same row as my first value. Here, I'm going to type in that special formula that we came up with earlier. Value left, and in this case I want J3. And how do I determine, what position I want to go to? Because remember what the problem here is. I'll just kind of jog your memory. What the problem here is that in each one of the results here, we still have 2 spaces tacked to the end of that value, and that gives us, or tacked to the end of the text, I should say, and that gives us a problem when we try to convert this to an actual value. And incidentally, the beauty of macros is all this time that I'm spending recording and I'm talking to you, it doesn't matter. The macro doesn't care how long it took you to create the macro. It's going to play it back as fast as it possibly can. But the way that I determine this is I use the length function, and I pass the same value to it, J3, but then we want to subtract 2, and that takes into account those 2 spaces that are at the end, and double quotes, and boom, now we've got a number. Now we're going to go back up to that number, click and drag, and copy that formula all the way down, and then we're set, right? All we have to do is put in total here, and let's go to actually the auto sum function. It's going to probably grab the correct data, and we'll grab that, and we can go ahead and format it as currency. In fact, if we want to, we can go and grab these and format them as currency. And that's it. I think we're pretty much done. So in a period of November 6th, 7th, 8th, and the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and even the 13th, we took in $5,247.90, considering this is the net amount, so that is minus the PayPal fees. And we're going to go back to Developer and stop recording. Of course, I could do anything else that I might possibly want to do. But the idea here is that now, let's see how this works. I'm going to grab this data, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it. Let's go ahead and make a new sheet, brand new sheet, and I'll paste the data there. Now, the only requirement that I had is that I need to start from 2 cells, 2 columns to the right of the top value. Then I'll go to macros, and we'll do this fix PayPal one, and I'll run it. And there we go. So now I could even go out, and I tell you what, I'll do that. I'll go out and grab some new data, and I'll be right back. Okay, I am back, and what I have done is I went to my PayPal account, and I went to the second page, and I'm going to paste this data in here. The only thing that's going to happen is I'm going to have to blur the screen to hide some of the names there, because I am not, since I'm actually pasting that in live, obviously I can't go in and manipulate the data. But it is new data. You can see that now I'm going from October 29th all the way to November 6th. So you're going to see that it works in exactly the same way. And we're just focusing. As a matter of fact, I can just collapse that cell there. We are focusing on the value right here at the end. I'll go to macros. Fix PayPal is the one I want, and I'll run it. And there we go. So from October 29th to, I think, half of the 6th at least, we received $1,850.71. This is something that, what if I had to do that every single time? I had to retype all of that stuff and do all of that work over and over again. So macros saves you a lot of time. In the next video, let's go ahead and go in, and not only time, but what about the potential for errors that you might have? You might mistype something. So macros help us out there too. In the next video, let's go ahead and take a look inside of a macro. I want you to see what it looks like and how you can, to a degree, fix some stuff pretty simply.